start, clear start.
Jeddah had been an outstanding event. Never before had any Grand Prix yacht racing been staged there. Moving the Cup world to the Red Sea had been a genuine trip into the unknown. The venue and the conditions were superb. The racing wasn't just close, but took the America's Cup onto another level altogether. In fact, there were some who believed this event had set a new benchmark for Grand Prix racing globally. But this event and the one before in Spain had also delivered plenty of shocks and surprises. Some of the biggest names in the sport and some of the best funded teams had dropped the ball, while some of the youngest sailors and newest teams had delivered outstanding performances. In any America's Cup cycle, there are always two camps, those taking the lead and those playing catch-up. This cycle's no different. It's just that at the moment, the hot teams are not where you might expect, and there are signs that AC37 might be heading towards a shake-up. So what happens next? For all the excitement of the first two preliminary series, the one-design fleet racing action in the AC40s is now over, and there's a big gap until official racing gets underway once again. Yes, the AC40s will be used for the Youth and Women's America's Cup, but as far as the focus on the main event is concerned, the next time we'll see these teams racing will be in their custom-designed AC75s. So even for those teams that left Jeddah bruised by the experience, there's time to regroup and regain focus on the main job in hand, to build the fastest boat and the slickest America's Cup crew. But how? What will teams do in the 9-month gap between Jeddah and the next event in Barcelona in August 2024? Alingi Red Bull Racing are no strangers to planning for an America's Cup. Winners in 2003 and 2007, they know what it takes to both challenge and defend. But a lot of water has passed under the bridge since their last appearance in 2010, when they lost to BMW Oracle Racing. Sailing team manager Rodney Ardern is one of the most experienced and accomplished sailors in the America's Cup. What did he think about the transition from Jeddah to Barcelona?
I think the regattas, they've been a good point of focus, but there's also a fleet racing aspect to those regattas, and so now after this is done we can focus a bit more on match racing and then see if we can replicate some of those moves on the bigger boat further down the track, but at least we'll have a good understanding a little bit more on the size of the race course, the boundaries, and or proportionally the size of the boundaries and the start box and things like that. So there should be plenty to work on in the new year and through the summer.
When do you think we'll start seeing the new AC75s? Because teams are only allowed to build one, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Only one boat this time. So I think there's probably a few different strategies. You either want to get it out early and try and iron the bugs out, and give yourself a little bit more sailing time, or spend more time in the design phase and bring it out a little later. I think most of the boats are going to come out in the spring, so we'll just have to see exactly when that happens. I wouldn't be surprised if Team New Zealand is potentially one of the first, even though they've probably got the best knowledge of all of the teams. They can take advantage of the Southern Hemisphere summer and do some serious sailing before they come up to Europe.
And then the focus I know you can't speak for other teams, but generally the focus will be on sailing out of Barcelona, I presume.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Like Alingi Red Bull Racing, Ineos Britannia also have a base set up in Barcelona, but their approach is slightly different.
Unlike previous campaigns, there's no shortage of boats to sail around in, which is great. That's kind of the way that's the way it should be. And if you compare our strategy to some of the other teams, we've not relaunched a big boat. A lot of the other teams, or some of the other teams, have. So yeah, it's the decisions that teams have taken have been, they've not all been identical, and be interesting to see how it all rattles out when we come to launch the big boats. The primary focus of the team on a whole is getting the big boat RB3 and launching it on time. That's I suppose the goal number one. And then around that, from a sailing team perspective, we need to use the time to get race sharp, a lot of simulator time, be as ready as we can to receive RB3 as well. The simulator's a great tool for that. So that's kind of where we're shifting. The focus shifts to some in-house racing and getting everything in order for RB3's arrival.
While the 5 challengers focus on their main bases in Barcelona, where the Cup will take place, the defenders headed back down to New Zealand. Surely operating remotely and away from the buzz of the competition brings its own challenges. As a team, you're no strangers to working in isolation down at the other end of the world. Doesn't seem to have hampered you in the past, but I wonder how comfortable do you feel under more pressure this time, because the standard of sailing has gone up, everybody else is going to be racing in or training, not necessarily against each other, but training in Barcelona?
Well, they're going to be training in the winter for a start, so we take an advantage just simply because we're in the summer, days are longer, the nicer weather, it's more predictable. Yeah, New Zealand's never particularly predictable in the weather, as you know. So no, not at all. I would look at it the other way. I'd say we're about to start to take our advantage, because we can move the boat pretty quickly when we're ready to move it to Europe, and we've still got our 240s. So we just change modes for 3 or 4 weeks. So I think Kevin will have commented on this, but I think we're where we should be. I don't think we're ahead of it, or I don't think we're behind it. So yeah, as a team, I think we're in a good space.
What do you do from here, between here and August? Obviously you go back down to New Zealand, but... Yeah,
we go back into a testing phase. So most of the other teams have sort of spent their foils. They've got, we've seen all their foils. We've still got another one to go. So we put a new one on 3 weeks ago, tested that. We've got another one coming online, which will be our last one. So that's sort of, design process. The biggest thing now, though, is 2 things. One is get the new boat in the water and start, the work on the real deal. And then 2, when we get this boat back to Auckland, and we've already got one there, we can get back into a racing environment. And these are things that we're playing. All we're doing now is playing out the decisions that we made as a result of the review of the win that we had in Auckland last time. We need to be a lot better than we were in Auckland. I didn't think we were particularly good.
And what of being the defender and the host for the next America's Cup? Just how different and difficult is this?
The event and the team are completely inextricably linked because the Cup allows it. So if it allows it, why wouldn't you do it? In saying that, I'm really focused on making the event for Barcelona, but not at the expense of the team. And no, I don't think we are. There's sort of classic cliche about the operation's success and the patient dies. So we have an absolutely brilliant event in Barcelona, which I hope we do, but somehow you've compromised the team so much that they can't win. Well, that would be a right royal cock-up. So they are linked, and Kevin Shoebridge and the guys, they're doing a really good job with the team. We've been together for so many years, Kevin and me now, and we relate so easily. I mean, he's the sensible one, I'm the crazy one, and they're doing a really good job.
Historically and currently, when you win the America's Cup, you take on the mantle of organising the next event. And with that, you have the ability to not so much change the rules, but make the rules. But that is done in collaboration with the Challenger of Record. So although it sounds very one-sided, it's not. And you often find that the Challenger of Record has a lot more power than you do, because it's a negotiation. And the Challenger of Record are chosen. This time it was Ineos. Last time it was Luna Rossa. And you collectively have to agree the rules. So it's not a one-way street.
Over this winter, Northern Hemisphere winter, Southern Hemisphere summer, you'll be down in Auckland. Will you be feeling... I mean, that's worked out for you in the past. That's worked pretty well. You've been able to do your thing down there. But will you feel a little bit more nervous this time, being down there with so many up here?
Not necessarily. I think the last 4 months we did in Barcelona was hugely beneficial for us, because we sailed the the AC75 more than anyone. I think we sailed it for 30 or 35 days. And that was a sort of strategic plan a year or two prior to that, just because we wanted to learn a lot at that scale in the venue with that sea state, and we've done that now. We're also efficient when we go home to our home base, where our design team is, where our boatyard is. With a new boat coming on in the new year, we're quite happy with it. We'll leave Jeddah, go home and be testing again in 10 days' time. So trying to make the most of both hemispheres and summers. You're always a little bit nervous when you're not with everyone. We were nervous before Bermuda because we were completely isolated. We spent the whole time in Auckland while all other 5 teams were in Bermuda for 1 to 2 years. But, luckily we sort of backed our design team and direction, and it worked out being a benefit being by ourselves.
Finally, from a personal point of view, what's more fun, being a challenger or a defender?
It depends what you define as fun, but I would always say being a defender, and it comes with a lot of challenges and a huge amount of work, which everyone has a huge amount of work, but it's very satisfying, and it's there's nothing better than being in that position in the America's Cup for sure.
Back home in the UK, and with a big blast of winter, it feels like the summer's a long way away and the battle for the America's Cup even further. But for teams, the clock is counting down, and just like every other cup cycle, time's precious. Behind the scenes, all the teams are working flat out. Each has their own strategy to create the best path along the road to the America's Cup. Nothing new here. But what did come as a surprise was to see that Alingi Red Bull Racing was so impressed with the conditions and the opportunities in Jeddah that they stayed on to do some more testing and training. Proof, if any were needed, that no matter how many cups you've done, asking what next is always a valid question.
A sustainable future. Yanmar.